We are continuing the transformation of this barren wasteland of a yard into a usable, lovely space with the creation of a walkway. So stick around and we'll get right into it. First thing we're going to do is remove the weeds and the overgrowth. I use a garden hoe and a shovel to do this. I also laid some pretty potent weed killer down to make sure that no matter what, even if I missed a couple with the tools, we were going to kill all of the weeds and prevent them from coming back as long as possible. This is what the end result looks like. It's basically a dirt pit at this point. Next, we're going to lay out where we want the walkway to go so that we can start digging out the dirt to make sure that we have enough space to lay our layers that we're going to be laying, which is a base layer, kind of a rock aggregate at the bottom, followed by the leveling sand. And I have a paver pad on the opposite side of that shed there, and I wanted to make sure that the stones lay level coming off of that paver pad. Otherwise it was going to be like stepping up into them and going to be a tripping hazard. So I take about 6 inches of dirt out when you really can typically get away with about 2 to 4. After we take out the dirt, then we are laying the first base layer, which is the crushed rock aggregate, and I'm stamping it down with a hand stamper there to make sure that it's nice and firm. After that, we're going to add the weed barrier, pin it in place with these yard pins. The weed barrier is about 4 feet wide. The walkway is about 3 feet wide, so I wanted to make sure that it was completely covered. After we lay the weed barrier, then we're going to basically add the leveling sand, and this is going to be exactly what the pavers sit on top of, or the stepping stones sit on top of. And they call it leveling sand because you can play with it and make sure that the stone that you're setting is going to be level. This is the landscape edging that I used. You can see it's rubber, flexible so that it moves around the curves nicely. This one is a 4-inch tall landscape edging, and I did that because, again, I dug out a little too much dirt than I should have, and I wanted to make sure that everything was going to be nice and flat and level. Otherwise it would have been like the walkway was in a trench, if you will. So I don't show it here, but after I get the landscape edging in, I add another layer of leveling sand. Because I'm going to use marble white chips, the white marble chips, I wanted to give some color to the stones so that they could stand out. This is the same color as some trim around my house, so it all ties together very nicely. I used this Wagner paint sprayer to apply the paint. I also added a little bit of water to the hopper just to make it flow through the gun a little bit better. I found that it flows through a little bit easier and more consistently. Maybe that's just my imagination, but at least it feels like that. So I give it about 10% water, mix it up really well before I spray it. And this is what it ends up looking like. They're a little light in this scene. I do give it a second coat after I lay them to make sure that everything is nice and coated, it gets absorbed well, and it's going to end up making sure that it's going to end up looking very nicely. This is just adding the stones. Now, each stone does not have to be level with the former or the next stone. Really what we're doing is just making sure that each individual stone is level and it follows the grade of the yard, because my yard does slope, and if I tried to make one level pad or one level stone path, it just wouldn't work out. I'd have 1 or 2 inches of leveling sand on one end and about 6 inches of leveling sand on the other end, at best, probably worse than that. So in any event, after we get all the stones in place, they're level, they're measured, we're adding the white stone chips. This is what it turns into. So stay tuned for the final transformation. I appreciate you sticking in, and now on to the plants.